Welcome, Shadow Seekers, to American Shadows, Crimes and Chronicles. Today, we're unearthing a tale that'll haunt your thoughts long after it ends. Whether you're glued to the screen or just listening in, you're in for a wild ride through history's darkest corners. If you're new, hit subscribe to join our mission of exposing America's hidden truths. Regulars, your likes fuel our journey into the unknown. Now, let's peel back the layers of time and reveal the secrets beneath. Ready? Let's begin. Kidnapped heiress or willing accomplice? The Patty Hearst mystery. Hello friends, and welcome to American Shadows, Crimes and Chronicles. Today, we're delving into one of the most sensational and controversial stories of the 1970s, a tale that blurs the lines between victim and criminal, captive and revolutionary. On September 18, 1975, Patricia Patty Hearst, the granddaughter of publishing tycoon William Randolph Hearst, was arrested in San Francisco, bringing to an end a saga that had gripped the nation for over 19 months. How does a young woman from one of America's wealthiest families transform into a gun-toting urban guerrilla? What drives someone to seemingly abandon their privileged life for a cause they once knew nothing about? And how did this case challenge our understanding of free will, coercion, and justice? Before we unravel this twisted tale, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you who support our work. Your engagement allows us to explore these complex and often controversial chapters of our recent history, helping us understand how they continue to shape our society today. The story begins on February 4, 1974, in Berkeley, California. Patty Hearst, a 19-year-old sophomore at UC Berkeley, was living a quiet life with her fiancé, Stephen Weed. That evening, members of a small, radical left-wing group called the Symbionese Liberation Army, SLA, burst into their apartment. They beat Stephen and dragged Patty, kicking and screaming, into the trunk of a getaway car. America was shocked. One of the country's wealthiest heiresses had been kidnapped by a group few had ever heard of. The heiress vanishes. Initially, the SLA demanded the release of 2 imprisoned members in exchange for Patty's freedom. When this was refused, they shifted tactics, insisting that the Hearst family distribute millions of dollars worth of food to California's poor. Patty's father, Randolph Hearst, complied, organizing a $2 million food giveaway program called People in Need. Yet, Patty remained in captivity. What would be the kidnappers' next move? And how long could Patty endure her ordeal? Then, on April 3, 1974, the story took a turn that no one saw coming. A surveillance camera captured images of Patty Hearst, armed with a carbine, participating in a robbery of the Hibernia Bank in San Francisco alongside her captors. The footage, broadcast across America, showed Hearst confidently wielding her weapon and shouting orders at terrified bank customers. Shortly after, an audio tape was released where Hearst, now calling herself Tanya, after a comrade of Che Guevara, declared that she had joined the SLA of her own free will. The public was stunned. Had Patty Hearst truly converted to the cause of her kidnappers? Or was she a victim of brainwashing and coercion? The case sparked intense debates about Stockholm Syndrome, a term that had only recently entered the public lexicon. As Americans grappled with these questions, they couldn't help but wonder, what would Patty do next? Tanya emerges. For the next 17 months, Patty Hearst was a fugitive, one of the most wanted women in America. She participated in more bank robberies, each one more daring than the last. In May 1974, a dramatic turn of events unfolded when 6 SLA members, including the group's leader, were killed in a fiery shootout with Los Angeles police. The nation watched in real time as the safe house went up in flames on live television. Hearst wasn't present, but the event only deepened the mystery surrounding her involvement with the group. As Patty crisscrossed the country with the remaining SLA members, the image of her, a wealthy heiress turned radical, gripped the nation, becoming one of the most discussed topics in the press. Every sighting, every rumor sparked new speculation. Was she still with the SLA? Had she escaped? Was she even still alive? This brings us to September 18, 1975. Acting on a tip, FBI agents surrounded an apartment in San Francisco's Mission District. Inside were Patty Hearst and fellow SLA member Wendy Yoshimura. The arrest was swift and without incident. When asked her occupation by the booking officer, Hearst reportedly replied, "Urban guerrilla." The nation held its breath, wondering what would happen next. The long arm of the law. The capture of Patty Hearst was front-page news across the country. Americans were captivated by images of the once privileged heiress, now haggard and defiant, being led away in handcuffs. The question on everyone's mind was, would she be treated as a victim or a criminal? The trial of Patty Hearst became a media sensation and one of the most watched legal cases of the decade. Her defense team, led by the famous F. Lee Bailey, argued that Hearst had been brainwashed and coerced by the SLA. They introduced the concept of coercive persuasion to the court, claiming that Hearst's actions were not of her own free will. The prosecution, however, painted a different picture. They argued that Hearst had willingly joined the SLA and participated in their crimes. They pointed to her apparent enthusiasm in surveillance footage and her refusal to return to her family when given opportunities to do so. As the trial progressed, America was divided. Was Patty a victim or a willing participant? On March 20th, 1976, the jury found Patty Hearst guilty of bank robbery. She was sentenced to 35 years in prison, later reduced to 7 years. The verdict ignited debates about victimization, free will, and the criminal justice system's ability to account for psychological coercion. Many felt that she had been unfairly punished for actions she was compelled to take under extreme duress. However, after serving 22 months, her sentence was commuted by President Jimmy Carter in 1979. She was later fully pardoned by President Bill Clinton in 2001. These decisions only fueled further debate about the role of privilege in the justice system. Legacy of a controversial case. The Patty Hearst case became a mirror reflecting the turbulent 1970s, a decade marked by disillusionment with authority, radical political movements, and shifting social norms. It forced Americans to confront uncomfortable questions about wealth, privilege, and the malleability of human behavior under extreme circumstances. The case also had lasting impacts on law enforcement and the legal system. It led to new protocols for handling kidnapping cases and influenced how courts consider psychological coercion in criminal proceedings. Moreover, it sparked a national conversation about media responsibility, as the press coverage of the case raised ethical questions about the balance between public interest and privacy rights. In the years since her release, Hearst has largely stayed out of the spotlight, occasionally granting interviews, but preferring to live a quieter life. She has authored an autobiography, acted in films directed by John Waters, and engaged in charitable work. Her story, however, continues to captivate the public, inspiring books, movies, and discussions about the nature of victimhood and agency. As we reflect on the arrest of Patty Hearst, we're left with profound questions about justice, media influence, and the nature of radicalization. How do we balance accountability with compassion when judging crimes committed under duress? What role does privilege play in our justice system? And how has our understanding of phenomena like Stockholm Syndrome evolved since this case? This is American Shadows, where we peer into the darker corners of our nation's past. Until next time, remember that history isn't just a collection of dates and names. It's a living force that shapes our world in ways both seen and unseen. The echoes of the Patty Hearst case continue to resonate, challenging our notions of free will, culpability, and the complex interplay between captor and captive. As we go about our daily lives, let's take a moment to consider the Patty Hearst case and what it tells us about human nature and the society we live in. For in understanding our past, we gain insights that can help us navigate the complex moral and legal landscapes of our present and future. The shadows cast by this case are long indeed, and they continue to influence our discussions on crime, punishment, and rehabilitation in ways we are still struggling to fully comprehend.